I thought it'd be fun to go over the story in the game where it could go from where it is right now. There's two different paths I can see the game going down. One that's exciting, and one that is very, very boring. We'll start with the more boring one, a story made of plot development that goes nowhere and character interactions, which is what we have now. We see the characters doing stuff in the story that, we haven't really seen anything of, to be quite honest. That's probably the most blunt way I could put it. Like, literally all the new villain scenes are them doing nefarious things or just questionable things that add nothing to the story. Like, Vayne had the summoning crystals or whatever in his cutscene, and so did Camelot. What did those add up to? Nothing. And while you could give Camelot, like, the benefit of doubt, you really can't for Vayne, because, I mean, it added nothing to the story. And it's not during the mannequin clone period that the story is currently in. It was part of the story when the actual characters were there fighting to take down the summons or whatever. Also, about the summons, that plot point never got developed. That's another video. What I'm saying here is that I really don't want this to happen, but it seems like it's going to happen, where we keep getting new parts of the story, new things in the story, new concepts that ultimately end up meaning nothing. And then, like, polarizing almost. We go from, like, these really important parts of the story where, like, you're like, oh, the crystals or whatever, to character interactions. And unlike Duodecim, where characters would develop over the course of the story, which mirrored that of their actual Final Fantasy game, NT doesn't have that benefit for nearly all of the characters. And from what we've seen of the base story in the game, they don't really seem interested in doing that either way. Y'shtola is the prime example because she stays the same way the entire story and even acts more experienced than Vaughn and Onion Knight at one point by pushing them off the cliff, which doesn't really make sense because she's supposed to be new and Onion Knight kind of realized that feelings are stronger than rationale and Duodecim, but whatever. I guess the writers just pretended that didn't ever happen or something. And then Noctis just goes from I don't want to be here to this place is pretty alright by the end of the story, which is like not character development, it's just changing your opinion. And on to the gods themselves. Spiritus is a pretty cool dude, and Materia is just a bitch. And they stay that way the entire story, they don't change at all. The only time there's any character development at all in Dissidia NT is with Ramza and Noctis' one cutscene they have together. And really it's just Noctis trying to encourage Ramza to feel better about his social status, and so I think it might be accidental character development that they didn't intend to do. And the reason why I bring this up is because it makes all the character interactions feel really, really shallow and pointless, unlike in Duodecim where even if they were just fan service at the end of the day, they added something to the plot, or they gave a better understanding of that character's character. We really don't get that in NT outside of the end of the game. I mean, not even at the end of the game. The patches after the game came out that added DLC cutscenes for free. Like, until then, the characters are just so focused on their objective that they don't really talk about their beliefs, their ideals, their reactions, their responses to the world around them. Like, off the top of my head, the only ones I can think of are Terra being like, I want to save the world because it's a nice place and all you are nice people. And Vaughn being like, my home's being destroyed. And then Onion Knight's like, no, it's not really your home. And then he's like, but still. And I'm not bashing on those scenes at all. In fact, they're actually really good for what the story is. But there are exceptions to the rule of the story, meaning like, the characters must save the world and do nothing else. And I could see the story continuing in this direction where the characters are just focused on whatever objective Spiritus and Materia give them in the cutscenes. The reason why I had to bring up all that criticism and all that analysis of the story is explain my next part, my next prediction of where the story could go. Hopefully a better one. So both Tactics and Type Zero's environments for our protagonists are pretty restrictive. Ace lives in a school community while Ramza has a medieval adventure with not much crazy bullshit. It's probably the most realistic Final Fantasy out there. I mean, sure there's magic and stuff, but it's not too out there. It's not like there's a cycle of time or something like in Final Fantasy 1. So with that in mind, I think the story could focus on them. Now, before everyone panics and says that they're not going to see their favorite Final Fantasy character in the story, I'm not saying it's only going to be Ace and Ramza, and have all the other characters revolve around them. No. If anything, their inexperience in Dissidia's world would catalyze more interesting interactions between them and the more seasoned warriors of the game. And then more characters can bounce off of them, and yada yada yada, you get the idea. Unlike Duodecim and NT, they don't have to focus on every single character being the main character at all times. Like, every single character in 012 got a cool scene. Multiple cool scenes, actually, I should correct myself there. Every single character did. And due to each hero's objective being just getting the crystal for themselves, almost every one of these scenes was very plot heavy. Meaning they had to balance between all the characters getting them plot heavy scenes that were related to their crystals, that were related to other characters' stories. But if we put the focus on Ramza and Ace, we don't have to worry about every single character getting a cool scene, or significantly plot heavy ones outside of just being a supporting character to help the other teammates fight. We don't need Renoa, Yuna, Locke, all the characters like Oh, I've got the main objective here, I gotta go for the main objective like we did in Duodecim. And let's be fucking real here, NT already did this with Lightning and Squall, they kinda just threw them to the side for the entire game. And let's keep being real here, they were handled extremely poorly in that regard. So some good writing will be needed to have it so that every single character is in the story, but if they're not the main focus, they still don't feel like a waste of space or just thrown away. Let's bring the focus back to Ramza and Ace. I'd imagine Ace would go to the more realistic locations while Ramza goes to the less realistic locations. Ace would end up going to the Orban Monastery, Insomnia, Cornelia, places that look like they could actually exist and have a culture that he could learn from, outside of being a schoolboy. Ramza would go to more crazy locations and learn to live a little. He'd also be inspired by how the heroes changed their worlds for the better. The main plot of both of them would be going down is trying to figure out why the world has been locked out, maybe, or like why the world's so different from all the other ones. Why is it an amalgamation of the locations they have in their memories rather than being its own original thing? And the villains would probably have their own motives all around, probably have many different motives between each of them. I would imagine they wouldn't be so angry at each other like they were in O12 and how disconnected they were due to all their own interests and ideas of what they should do with the world they're in. And while I personally don't see that happening, it could happen. I mean, it would make sense in the plot maybe, with some of the new characters being like, I don't want to fight for you at all, Spiritus, you're a big poopy head. If they did decide to go down that path though, they could have another route where you play as the villain character who's rebelling against Spiritus. Maybe Vayne is like, oh, this world is stupid, I want to go back to Rabanastre and take it over while Vaughn is missing. And this might be a bit of a trope, but then it could lead to a final boss battle where you choose between having the villains win or the heroes win, which would lead to the truth being revealed or mangled beyond comprehension. The warriors would then be desummoned and the endless war would continue, with Dissidia Arcade, as it is right now in the story. We would then go back to plot points that would be expanded upon with another story expansion and character interactions with new characters. Which sums up my story expansion I would like to see. Don't take my word as gospel though, I'm just spitballing here. Just to make no one thinks I'm having any favoritism or anything, I have not played any of the games I mentioned in this video. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about my crazy story theory. I'll see you guys next time on Blue the Hedgehog. Bye bye for now, and do not eat your mother. Be bye bye bye. Ho 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 ho, funny.